The fluorescent lights of Rosario's diner flickered with the tired rhythm of a place that had seen better days, nestled between a pawn shop and a laundromat on the forgotten edge of South Boston. The diner served coffee that tasted like burnt ambition and pie that could break a man's spirit. But it stayed open until 2 a.m., and that was enough. Elena Vargas wiped down the same stretch of counter she'd been cleaning for the past 3 years. 27 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had loosened hours ago, she moved through her shift like a ghost, efficient, invisible, forgettable. That was the goal. In a neighborhood where the wrong kind of attention could get you killed, invisibility was survival. The dinner reshift you could call 6 customers a rush had come and gone. Now only the regulars remained. Old Murphy nursing his decaf in booth 3, the Kowalski twins arguing about baseball near the window, and a table of 4 men in the back corner who hadn't ordered anything but water for the past hour. Elena knew who they were. Everyone knew. The Moretti family had controlled this part of the city for 3 generations. They owned the buildings, the businesses, the cops, and the silence that hung over every street corner like fog. You didn't talk to them. You didn't look at them. You served them their water, kept your eyes down and prayed they'd leave without incident. But tonight, Dominic Moretti himself sat among them. She'd seen him before, always from a distance, a figure stepping out of black chauvies, a silhouette in restaurant windows, a name whispered with equal parts fear and reverence. Up close he was younger than she'd expected. Maybe 35, with dark hair graying at the temples, and eyes the color of winter storms. He wore his suit like armor, every line precise, every button a statement. He hadn't looked at her once. The door chimed, and Carla, the night cook, stuck her head out from the kitchen. "Elena, I'm heading out. Tony's covering the grill, but he's slower than molasses, so don't take any big orders. Got it? And stop looking at the back table. You'll turn to stone." Elena forced a smile. "I wasn't, girl. I've been working here since before you were born. I know that look." Carla lowered her voice. "That's Dominic Moretti, the boss. Not some captain or soldier, the actual boss. He could buy this diner with the cash in his pocket and burn it down for fun. Don't even breathe in his direction. I know who he is. Then act like it." Carla disappeared, and Elena returned to her counter. The clock above the register read 11:47 p.m. Another 2 hours. She could do this. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, already knowing what she'd find. "Mum, the heating bill came. $340. Can you help?" Elena closed her eyes. Last week it was the car repair. Before that, her brother Miguel's legal fees. The money she'd been saving for night classes, the accounting degree that was supposed to be her ticket out, had dwindled to almost nothing. She typed back, "I'll figure it out." The same thing she always said, the same lie. "Excuse me." Elena looked up. One of Moretti's men stood at the counter, young, maybe 25, with a neck tattoo that crawled up toward his jaw. He slid a $100 bill across the counter. "4 coffees. Keep the change." She stared at the bill. 4 coffees at $2.50 each, a $90 tip. Thank you, but don't make it weird." He walked away. Elena poured the coffees with trembling hands. The money would help. It would more than help. But nothing in this neighborhood came without strings. She loaded the cups onto a tray and approached the back table. The conversation stopped as she arrived. Not a gradual fade, but an instant silence, like someone had hit a mute button on the world. "Your coffees," she said, keeping her eyes on the tray. She set down the first cup, the second, the third. As she placed the 4th cup in front of Dominic Moretti, her hand betrayed her. A tremor, small but unmistakable, sent coffee sloshing over the rim and onto the saucer. The man to Moretti's left holder, with a scar bisecting his eyebrow, reached for a napkin with a look of disgust. "Careful, sweetheart. I'm sorry, it's fine." Moretti's voice was low, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need to be raised because it was always heard. He looked at her for the first time, and Elena felt something shift in her chest, not attraction, exactly, but recognition, like he was seeing past the apron and the tired ponytail and the 3 years of invisibility, seeing something she'd buried so deep she'd forgotten it existed. "Thank you," he said. She nodded and turned to leave. Later, she would think about this moment. She would replay it 1,000 times, trying to understand what possessed her: exhaustion, frustration, the crushing weight of another bill she couldn't pay, or maybe just the reckless knowledge that her life had become so small that even danger felt like a change. Whatever it was, she stopped. She turned back, and she said loud enough for the whole table to hear, "I haven't had sex in 6 months." The words hung in the air like smoke. The scarred man froze, napkin in hand. The young one with the neck tattoo choked on his coffee. The fourth man, silent until now, slowly pushed back his chair, as if preparing to intervene in whatever violence was about to unfold. Dominic Moretti didn't move. Elena's face burned. What had she done? What the hell had she just done? The words had tumbled out before she could stop them, half joke, half confession, entirely catastrophic. She'd meant it as ... what? A deflection. A bizarre attempt to explain her shaking hands. "I haven't had sex in 6 months. To the most dangerous man in the city, in front of his men. I don't know why I said that," she stammered. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll get you more coffee. No charge. I'll sit down." The words stopped her cold. Moretti gestured to the empty chair beside him. His expression hadn't changed, calm, unreadable, like a man watching a chess game unfold and already knowing the outcome. "I'd rather sit down." His men exchanged glances. The scarred one shook his head slightly, a warning she didn't need. But her legs were moving, independent of her brain, carrying her around the table and into the chair like a marionette on strings. Up close, Dominic Moretti smelled like expensive cologne, and something darker underneath, gunpowder. Maybe, or the leather of a car interior where terrible decisions were made. His eyes held hers without blinking. "What's your name?" "Elena." "Elena what?" "Vargas. Elena Vargas." He said it slowly, tasting each syllable. "How long have you worked here, Elena Vargas?" 3 years. "You live nearby?" "Yes." "Alone?" She hesitated. Something in his tone made her cautious. "Why?" The ghost of a smile crossed his face, there and gone so fast she might have imagined it. "'Cause you just told a table of strangers, very dangerous strangers, that you haven't been intimate with anyone in 6 months. That suggests either poor judgment or complete indifference to your own safety. I'm trying to determine which." Her hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat against her thighs beneath the table. "It was a joke, was it?" "I don't know what it was. I'm tired. I work doubles most days, and I just got another bill I can't pay, and my brother's in trouble again, and sometimes my mouth just ... moves. Without permission. Something like that." Moretti leaned back in his chair. The scarred man Elena would later learn his name was Victor, cleared his throat meaningfully. "Boss, we're not finished." Victor fell silent. Moretti's gaze never left Elena's face. She had the disorienting sensation of being studied, catalogued, filed away in some mental archive she'd never be able to access. 6 months, he said. "That's a long time." "Not really. Some people go years, do they? Nuns, for example. Priests. People who've Made choices. Have you made a choice, Elena Vargas? The question cut through her defenses before she could raise them. Had she made a choice? Or had she simply let life make choices for her, working every shift she could get, sending money home, putting off school, putting off dating, putting off everything that might have made her feel like a person instead of a machine that converted hours into dollars? I don't know, she admitted. Moretti nodded, as if this was the answer he'd expected. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a card-heavy cream stock, embossed with nothing but a phone number. If you decide you'd like to make different choices, he said, sliding the card across the table, call this number. Elena stared at it. What would happen if I called? That would depend on you. I don't understand. No. He stood, and his men rose with him like shadows. But you will. They left without another word. The $100 bill remained on the counter. The card sat in front of her like an unexploded bomb. Elena didn't move for a long time. The walk home took 20 minutes through streets that were never quite safe, but were at least familiar. Elena lived in a fourth-floor walk-up above a bodega that smelled perpetually of ripe plantains and industrial cleaner. Her apartment was small bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. It was more of a suggestion, but it was hers. No roommates, no family members crashing on the couch, no chaos, but the chaos she created herself. She locked the door behind her, kicked off her shoes, and sat on the edge of her bed with the card in her hands. The number stared back at her. No name, no address, no context. Just 10 digits that could change everything. She should throw it away. She knew this with the same certainty that she knew the sun would rise and her rent was due on Friday. Dominic Moretti wasn't a man who offered opportunities. He offered traps dressed in silk and baited with money. Whatever he wanted from her, it wouldn't end well. But then again, what was well right now? She pulled out her phone and did something she hadn't done in months. She looked at her bank account. The numbers stared back at her, $412.37. Her rent was $950. The heating bill was $340. Her mother's arthritis medication, which insurance had stopped covering, was $200. She'd been doing this math her whole life, working the angles, finding the gaps, juggling bills like flaming torches, and somehow never getting burned. But she was so tired, so goddamn tired of being careful, being smart, being invisible. I haven't had sex in 6 months. Why had she said that? Of all the things to blurt out to the most powerful man in the city, why that? Because it was true. Because it was the kind of truth that had stopped mattering, lost somewhere in the shuffle of survival. Because for one stupid, reckless moment, she'd wanted someone to know that she wasn't just a waitress at Rosario's diner, that she had a body and needs and desires that were slowly shriveling under the fluorescent lights. And he'd listened, not with amusement, not with disgust, with attention. Real attention, the kind she hadn't felt in years. She set the card on her nightstand. Tomorrow she would throw it away. She would go back to her shifts and her bills and her invisibility, and this night would become a story she'd tell herself sometimes. A reminder of the time she almost made a terrible mistake. Tomorrow. But tomorrow came, and she didn't throw it away. She put the card in her wallet, tucked behind her driver's license, where she wouldn't have to look at it. Then she went to work, served her tables, collected her tips, and tried to forget. The problem was, Dominic Moretti didn't seem interested in being forgotten. He came back the next night. Not with his men this time, alone, sliding into the back booth at 11 p.m. like he owned the place. Which, Elena realized with a sinking feeling, he probably did. She watched him from behind the counter, hoping he'd ask for someone else, but there was no one else. The diner was empty except for old Murphy, already snoring into his decaf. She approached with a menu she knew he wouldn't need. Coffee? Yes. She poured it, black, and set it in front of him. He didn't touch it. How's your day, Elena Vargas? Fine. Did you call the number? No. Why not? She met his eyes. They were darker than she remembered. Or maybe it was just the lighting. The shadows in this corner booth turning everything into chiaroscuro. Because I'm not stupid. No, he agreed. You're not. Then you understand why I won't call. I understand why you think you won't call. He lifted the coffee cup, took a sip, set it down. But you kept the card. It wasn't a question. She didn't ask how he knew. I was going to throw it away. And yet, she crossed her arms over her chest, a defensive gesture she regretted immediately. What do you want from me? To answer that, I'd have to know myself. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. He leaned back, and for a moment, he looked almost tired, not physically, but something deeper, like a man who had carried a weight so long he'd forgotten it had a source. I meet a lot of people, Elena. Most of them want something from me. Money, protection, favors. They smile and they flatter, and they never say what they mean because they're afraid of what I might do. Reasonable fear, yes. But you, he tilted his head. You told me you haven't had sex in 6 months. To my face. In front of my men. I didn't mean, I know you didn't mean to. That's the point. You said it because it's true. And because in that moment, you didn't care about the consequences. He paused. Do you know how rare that is? How long it's been since someone spoke to me like I was just ... a person. Elena felt something crack inside her chest. A wall she hadn't known was there. Built brick by brick, over years of serving difficult customers and dodging landlord calls and pretending everything was fine. I can't be what you're looking for, she said softly. What do you think I'm looking for? I don't know. A toy. A possession. A distraction. And if I said it was none of those things, I'd say you were lying. He smiled then. A real smile. Small but unmistakable Anth. She understood all at once why people followed him, feared him, died for him. It wasn't the power or the money. It was the way he made you feel, like the only person in the world worth his attention. You're smart, Elena Vargas. He stood, dropping a 50 on the table. Don't call the number. Forget we ever spoke. Go back to your life, and your bills, and your invisibility, and tell yourself you made the right choice. He walked toward the door. But if you change your mind, he added, without turning round, I'll be here tomorrow night. Same time. The door chimed. He was gone. Elena picked up the $50 bill and tried to breathe. The next day, she made a decision. She would not go back to the diner. She would call in sick, spend the night in her apartment, and break the pattern before he could take hold. She would be smart. She would be invisible. At 10:45 p.m., she put on her coat and walked out the door. The diner was quiet when she arrived. A family in booth 2, finishing their pie. A teenager doing homework in the corner. And Dominic Moretti in his booth, right where he said he'd be. He watched her approach without surprise. You came. I came to tell you that I can't do this. Can't do what? Whatever this is. She gestured between them. The mysterious billionaire thing. The late-night conversations. The way you look at me like you're trying to solve a puzzle. I'm not a puzzle. I'm just a person who made a stupid comment because I was tired and broke and my filter malfunctioned, and now I'm asking you to leave me alone. He considered this. In the fluorescent light, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the weight of decisions that had bent him without breaking. I can do that, he said finally. Good. On one condition. She should have walked away. Later she would wonder what would have happened if she had turned on her heel and never looked back. Never learned what kind of person she could become under the right pressure. But she didn't walk away. What condition? Dominic Moretti leaned forward, and his voice dropped low enough that only she could hear. Have dinner with me. One dinner, anywhere you choose. After that, if you want me to disappear, I will. You'll never see me again. Why? Because I haven't been honest with you. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked almost vulnerable, a word she would never have associated with him before. I told you I didn't know what I wanted from you. That was true when I said it. But I've been thinking about it for 2 days, and I think I've figured it out. What do you want? He met her eyes. I want to know why I can't stop thinking about you. Elena didn't answer right away. She stood there, holding her tray like a shield, while something shifted in her chest, fear and curiosity, and a strange, dangerous hope she hadn't felt in years. One dinner, she said finally. One dinner, and you'll leave me alone after. If that's what you want. I choose the place. Anywhere. She thought for a moment. If she was going to do this, and she was really doing this, God help her. She wasn't going to let him control the setting. No expensive restaurants where she'd feel out of place. No private clubs where his power would surround them like walls. There's a taco truck on Meridian Street, she said. Best carnitas in the city. They close at midnight. For a moment, he just looked at her, and he laughed, a real laugh, surprised and genuine, transforming his face into something almost boyish. Tacos it is, tomorrow night, 11 o'clock. I'll be there. She nodded and walked away before she could change her mind. Her hands were shaking again, but not from fear this time. From something else, something that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff and choosing to jump. Behind her, she heard him say something to Victor, who had appeared from somewhere like a ghost. Tomorrow night, Dominic said. Clear my schedule. Boss, are you sure about? Clear it. Elena didn't look back. She pushed through the kitchen doors, pressed her back against the wall, and tried to remember how to breathe. What had she done? What the hell had she just done? The next 24 hours passed in a blur of second-guessing and panic. She called her mother to check in, but couldn't focus on the conversation. She picked up an extra shift at the diner, hoping the work would distract her. She changed her outfit 4 times before settling on jeans and a simple black sweater. Nothing that said she was trying. Nothing that said she wasn't. At 10:30 p.m., she walked to Meridian Street. The taco truck was wedged between a car wash and an auto parts store, its neon sign casting pink and green light across the cracked parking lot. A few plastic tables sat nearby, occupied by shift workers and insomniacs. The air smelled like grilled onions and cilantro. Elena ordered 2 carnitas tacos with extra lime and found a table facing the street. He arrived at exactly 11 o'clock. She spotted him before he spotted her, a black SUV pulling up to the curb. The door opening to reveal Dominic Moretti in dark jeans and a leather jacket she'd never seen before. Without the suit, he looked younger, softer, almost human. He scanned the parking lot, found her, and smiled. You came, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. You sound surprised. I thought you might change your mind. I did. About 6 times. What made you decide to show up? She pushed a taco toward him, the carnitas. It would have been a crime to waste them. He looked at the taco like it was a foreign object, which Elena realized it might as well have been. When was the last time Dominic Moretti had eaten street food? Had he ever? You've never had tacos from a truck, have you? I've had tacos. Restaurant tacos don't count. He picked up the taco carefully, studying its construction. Is there a specific technique I should know about? Yes. Stop thinking about it and eat. He took a bite. His expression changed, surprise first, then something that looked almost like delight. He chewed, swallowed, and immediately took another bite. This is incredible. I told you. Why doesn't everyone eat here? Because it's on the wrong side of town, it only takes cash, and it closes at midnight. She bit into her own taco, feeling the tension in her shoulders begin to ease. Plus, it's run by a 70-year-old woman named Rosa, who will yell at you in Spanish if you ask for sour cream. Noted. They ate in silence for a moment. Around them, the parking lot hummed with the quiet rhythm of late-night commerce car doors closing. Engines starting, someone's radio playing reggaeton at a respectful volume. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said. "Anything. Why me?" He set down his taco. "I told you. Because you were honest. But that's not enough. There have to be other people who are honest with you. People you've known longer, who understand your world, my world." He said it like a curse. "Do you know what my world looks like, Alina? It looks like meetings where every word is calculated. Dinners where everyone smiles while planning how to take what I have. Women who look at me and see dollar signs or danger or both, and tailor themselves accordingly." He paused. "You looked at me and saw a customer who got his coffee spilled on him. And then you told me you hadn't had sex in 6 months. You're never going to let that go, are you?" "It's the most interesting thing anyone's said to me in years." She laughed despite herself. "That's sad." "Yes." He wasn't laughing. "It is." The neon sign flickered overhead. A car pulled out of the lot, headlights sweeping across them like a searchlight. "I need to know what you want from me," Elena said quietly. "And I need you to be specific. Not, 'I want to know why I can't stop thinking about you.' That's not an answer. That's a line." It wasn't a line. Then what was it? Dominic leaned forward. In the pink and green light, his eyes were impossible to read. "I run an empire built on fear," he said. "I have enemies who would kill me if they could, and allies who would replace me if they thought they could get away with it. I make decisions every day that determine whether people live or die, and I do it without hesitation, because hesitation is weakness, and weakness is death." He paused. "But when I'm with you, when you look at me like you're not afraid, I remember what it was like before all of this. When I was just a person. You're still a person. Am I?" The question hung between them. Elena thought about her mother, working double shifts at the factory until her joints swelled. She thought about her brother, Miguel, who had made one stupid mistake at 19 and spent 3 years paying for it. She thought about herself, the accounting degree she'd never finish, the apartment that felt more like a cell every day, and the life she'd built out of fear and caution, and the relentless pursuit of invisibility. "Yes," she said. "You are." Something shifted in his expression. A crack in the armor, just wide enough to glimpse what was underneath. "One dinner," he said. "That was the deal." "Yes. So this is it. After tonight, if you want me to disappear, I know." "What do you want, Elena?" She looked at him, really looked, past the reputation and the money and the danger. Looked at the man who had laughed at tacos from a truck and admitted he'd forgotten what it was like to be human. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "That's not an answer." "No," she smiled. "But it's the truth." He drove her home himself, not the SUV with the tinted windows, but a different car, simpler, just the two of them in the front seats. The silence between them was comfortable, charged with something neither of them named. At her building, he pulled up to the curb and let the engine idle. "Thank you for dinner," he said. "You paid. You chose the location. That matters more." She reached for the door handle, then stopped. "I'm not going to call the number," she said. He nodded slowly, but she turned to face him. "If you want to have tacos again sometime, I'm usually at the truck on Thursdays." He didn't smile, but something lightened in his eyes. "Thursdays, around 9. I'll remember." She got out of the car, walked to her building, and didn't look back. But she felt him watching her until she was inside, until the door closed behind her, and she was alone with the echo of her own heartbeat. In her apartment, she stood at the window and watched his car pull away. She had no idea what she was doing, no idea where this was going or how it would end. But for the first time in years, Elena Vargas felt something that wasn't fear or exhaustion or resignation. She felt alive, and that, she knew, was the most dangerous feeling of all. 3 weeks later, the tacos had become a ritual. Every Thursday at 9 o'clock, Dominic appeared at Rosas's truck-like clockwork leather jacket, cash in hand, no bodyguards. He'd order whatever Elena recommended and sit across from her at the same plastic table, learning to navigate carnitas and al pasta and the occasional elote that Rosa insisted he'd try. "You're getting better at this," Elena told him one night, watching him eat a taco without losing any of the filling. "I've had excellent instruction. You've also ruined your reputation. If your enemies knew the great Dominic Moretti was eating street tacos, they'd assume I was meeting an informant." He wiped his hands on a napkin. "Which, in a way, I am. I'm not an informant. No, you're something worse." His eyes met hers. "You're a complication." She should have asked what he meant by that. Should have pressed him on the boundaries of whatever this was. These Thursday nights that felt both innocent and loaded with something she couldn't name. But she didn't want to break the spell. So she said, "You have salsa on your chin." He wiped it away, smiling. The calls started the following week. Not from the number on the card, she'd never called that, but from him directly. Always late at night, always after his business was done for the day. "I'm not interrupting. I'm watching a documentary about whales." "Which whales?" "The sad kind. They're all sad, honestly." He laughed, that same surprised sound from the first night, and she found herself smiling into the phone like a teenager. They talked about nothing important. Her job, his meetings, the best restaurants in the city. He'd been to all of them. She'd been to none. He asked about her family, and she told him about her mother's arthritis, her brother's record, the money that never seemed to stretch far enough. He listened without judgment, without offering to fix things, which was somehow more comforting than if he had. "Why don't you let me help?" he asked one night. "Financially. I could make these problems disappear, 'cause then I'd owe you. You wouldn't owe me anything. I would. Even if you didn't mean it that way, I would." Silence on the line. "You're too smart for your own good," he said finally. "I've been told." The first time he touched her, it was an accident. They were leaving Rosa's truck when she tripped on a crack in the pavement, one of those stupid, clutchy moments that happened to everyone but felt mortifying when they happened to her. His hand shot out, catching her arm, steadying her before she could fall. "You okay?" "Fine. Just stupid." But he didn't let go. His fingers stayed wrapped around her forearm, warm even through her jacket, and when she looked up at him, his expression was different, focused, intense. "Elena." "Yes?" He seemed to be fighting something, a desire, a line he wasn't sure he should cross. She watched the battle play out in his jaw, his eyes, the slight tension in his grip. Then he released her. "Good night," he said, and walked away. She stood in the parking lot for a long time after he left. The second time he touched her, it wasn't an accident. They were in his car, not the simple one from before, but the black SUV, because it had started to rain and it offered to drive her home. The city streamed past the windows in ribbons of water and light, and Elena felt like she was inside a snow globe that someone had shaken. "You're quiet tonight," he said. "I'm thinking about what happens if this goes wrong." He didn't ask what this was, and they both knew. "What makes you think it will go wrong?" "'Cause it always does. 'Cause you're you and I'm me, and there's no version of this story that ends well." He pulled the car, to the curb outside of a building. The rain drummed on the roof, filling the silence between them. "You're probably right," he said. "Probably. There's no version of this that makes sense. No version that I should pursue, or that you should allow." He turned to face her. "But I stopped caring about should a long time ago." His hand found her cheek. His thumb traced her cheekbone, her jaw, the corner of her mouth. She stopped breathing. "Tell me to leave," he said. Yes, I should tell you this is insane, and I'm not equipped for it. And whatever you're offering will only break me. Yes, and that even though I think about you constantly," her voice cracked. "Even though I haven't felt this alive in years, I know better than to think this can work. You do." His mouth was inches from hers. She could feel his breath, the heat of his body, the impossible gravity of him pulling her in. "Tell me to leave," he whispered. She kissed him instead. It wasn't a gentle kiss. There was nothing tentative about it, nothing careful. She kissed him like she'd been starving for contact, and she had been for months, for years, for so long she'd forgotten what hunger felt like. His hand slid into her hair, angling her head back, and she made a sound she didn't recognize as her own. He pulled back. His breathing was ragged. "Come upstairs," she said. "Elena, I know what I'm doing. Do you?" "No." She took his hand. "Come upstairs anyway." Her apartment looked different with him in it. Smaller, shabbier, every flaw magnified by his presence. But he didn't seem to notice, or if he did, he didn't care. He looked only at her. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Stop asking me that. I need to know." She silenced him with another kiss, and then another. And then they weren't talking at all. He was careful with her at first, too careful, like he was afraid she might shatter. She had to pull him closer, whisper in his ear, convince him that she wasn't fragile. "I'm not going to break," she breathed. "I know. Then stop holding back." He met her eyes. Something shifted in them, control released, desire unleashed. His grip tightened. He stopped holding back. Afterward, they lay tangled in her sheets, while the rain continued its assault on the windows. He traced patterns on her shoulder, idle, absent, like he was thinking about something else. "What happens now?" she asked. "What do you want to happen?" "I asked you first." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I want to see you again. Not just Thursdays, not just tacos. What does that look like, for someone like you?" "I don't know. I've never done this before." "You've never dated?" "I've never—" He paused, searching for the word. "Cared. Not like this. Not in a way that made me question how I live." She turned to look at him. In the dim light, the lines of his face were softened, almost gentle. "This will get complicated," she said. "Yes, your world will touch mine. There will be things I can't know, things I have to look away from. Yes, and eventually, something will go wrong. Someone will get hurt." He didn't argue, didn't promise her safety or protection or happily ever after. Didn't lie. "Do you want to stop?" he asked instead. She thought about her answer for a long time. "No," she said finally. "I don't." The arrangement began. On the surface, nothing changed. Elena still worked her shifts at Rosario's, still visited her mother on Sundays, still sent money home and worried about bills. But underneath, everything was different. Dominic came to her apartment 2 or 3 times a week, always late, always alone. Sometimes they talked for hours about his childhood in South Boston, his father's legacy, the empire he'd inherited and expanded through a combination of strategy and brutality. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. "You're the only person who knows this," he told her one night, describing how his mother had left when he was 7, just walked out one morning and never came back. "My men think she died. It's easier that way. Why are you telling me?" "Because you asked." She hadn't asked. She'd just been lying beside him, listening to his heartbeat, and he'd started talking. "You don't have to tell me things because I'm here." she said carefully. I'm not trying to get close to you like that. Like what? Like I want leverage or information. I just want ... What? She didn't have an answer. What did she want? What had she ever wanted besides survival? He turned toward her, propping his head on his hand. His eyes were dark and serious. I'm going to tell you something, he said, and I need you to believe it, even though everything in your experience tells you it's a lie. Okay, I don't need you. I don't need anyone. I've built my life around not needing. It's how I've stayed alive this long. I know, but I want you. And for me, that's more dangerous than need. He paused, because need can be satisfied. Want just grows. She felt something bloom in her chest. Fear and hope intertwined like roots. What happens when it grows too much? I don't know. He kissed her forehead. But I think we're going to find out. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks later. Elena was leaving the diner after a double shift when she noticed a car parked across the street. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine running. It was there when she arrived, there when she looked. Back a block later, it was following her. She called Dominic. Where are you? Walking home. There's a car, black sedan? I see it, you see it? I have people watching you, Elena. I have since the night we met. She stopped walking. The sedan stopped too. You've been having me followed, protected, without telling me. I knew you'd react like this. Like what? Like a person who doesn't want to be surveilled. Like a person who doesn't understand the danger she's in. His voice was tight. The moment I showed interest in you, you became a target. Everyone who gets close to me becomes a target. I can't change that, so I manage it. And managing it means knowing where you are at all times. And if I don't want to be managed, silence. Then you walk away, he said finally. And I respect your decision, but the protection stays, because I can't. He stopped. I can't be the reason something happens to you. Elena looked at the sedan. Inside, she could see the faint outline of a driver, waiting. Who are they protecting me from? Everyone. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you right now. She started walking again. The sedan followed at a respectful distance. I need to know more, she said, about your world, about what I'm involved in. You're not involved, Dominic. I sleep with you 3 times a week. I know about your mother. You told me last Tuesday that you have nightmares about drowning. I'm involved. Another silence, longer this time. Come to my house tomorrow night, he said. I'll tell you what I can, what you can. There are things I will never tell you, for your sake and for mine. But I'll give you enough to make an informed decision. About what? About whether to stay. His house wasn't what she expected. She'd imagined something ostentatious, a mansion with gold fixtures and marble floors, the kind of place that screamed money and power. Instead, the car brought her to a brownstone in Beacon Hill, elegant and restrained, with security so subtle she almost didn't notice it. Dominic met her at the door himself. You came. You're surprised again. I'm always surprised when you show up. It means you haven't come to your senses yet. He led her inside. The decor was minimal dark woods, clean lines, a few pieces of art that looked expensive but not flashy. It felt like him, controlled, purposeful, revealing nothing it didn't have to. Wine, please. He poured 2 glasses of something red and probably worth more than her rent. They sat in a living room with windows overlooking a private garden, bare trees silhouetted against the night sky. Ask your questions, he said. She took a breath. What do you do? Specifically. I know the broad strokes. Everyone in the neighborhood knows, but I want to hear it from you. He swirled his wine, watching the legs slide down the glass. I run a criminal organization. We operate in several sectors: extortion, loan sharking, illegal gambling, some smuggling. We have relationships with law enforcement and city officials that allow us to operate with minimal interference. We also have legitimate businesses, real estate, construction, a few restaurants that we use to launder money and build political influence. He said it calmly, matter-of-factly, like he was describing a portfolio to an investor. Do you hurt people? Yes, kill them when necessary. She gripped her wine glass. What does necessary mean? It means when someone threatens the organization, or my family, or the people under my protection. It means when an example needs to be made, or when mercy would be interpreted as weakness. He met her eyes. I don't kill for pleasure, Elena. I don't kill carelessly. But I do kill, and I won't pretend otherwise. The room felt smaller, suddenly. The wine tasted like copper in her mouth. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. Because I don't want you to have illusions about who I am. He leaned forward. I am not a good man. I've never pretended to be. But I am a man who keeps his word, who protects what's his, and who hasn't been able to stop thinking about you since that night at the diner. What does that mean? What's his? It means that if you choose to stay, if you decide, knowing what you now know, that you want to continue this, then you become mine to protect. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. It should have sounded romantic. In a movie, it would have been a sweeping declaration, a promise of love and safety. But sitting in his living room, surrounded by evidence of his wealth and power, Elena understood it for what it really was. A warning. And if I walk away, then you walk away. I won't stop you. I won't pursue you. But he hesitated. I'd rather you didn't. Why? Because I've never felt like this. Because you make me remember who I was before I became this. Because he stopped again, and for a moment the mask slipped entirely. Because I think I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know what to do about it. The words hit her like a physical force. She stood up, set down her wine glass, and walked to the window. The garden below was dark and still, and she could see her own reflection in the glass, a woman who looked tired and scared and completely out of her depth. I need time, she said. Take as much as you need. I need to think about what this means. For my life. For my family. I understand. She turned to face him. He was still sitting on the couch, watching her with that same intensity that had drawn her in from the beginning. If I stay, she said slowly, I need rules, boundaries. I can't be wondering every day whether someone's going to follow me, or threaten me, or name them. I need to know when I'm in danger. Really in danger, not just theoretically. I can't live in fear, Gun. I need to continue working. I need to have my own life, my own money, Gun. And I need you to promise me. Her voice wavered. Promise me that whatever happens in your world stays in your world. That it never touches my family. He stood and crossed to her. This close, she could see the toll of whatever he'd been through to get here. The lines, the shadows, the weight of 1,000 decisions that had left their marks. I promise, he said. How can I trust that? You can't. He took her hands. You can only decide whether the risk is worth it. She looked at their hands, intertwined, hers still rough from work, his steady and sure. She thought about the life she'd been living, safe, invisible, slowly suffocating. She thought about the life he was offering, dangerous, complicated, terrifyingly alive. Thursday, she said. What? I'll give you my answer on Thursday. At Rosa's truck. He nodded, and she saw it again, that flicker of vulnerability, quickly hidden. I'll be there, he said. She went home that night and didn't sleep. She walked through her apartment, touching objects like they could anchor her, the books she'd never had time to read, the photographs of her family, the acceptance letter to the community college accounting program that she'd framed but never acted on. What was she doing? What was she actually considering? She called her brother. "Hey, sis. Everything okay?" "Yeah, just wanted to talk." "At midnight?" "I know. I'm sorry. She sat on her bed. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything. If you had a chance to change your life, really change it. Not just around the edges, but there were risks, real risks. Would you take it?" Miguel was quiet for a moment. Then, what kind of risks? The kind where everything could fall apart. "Is this about a guy?" "Maybe. Elena." His voice was serious. "You're the most careful person I know. You've never taken a risk in your life. If you're even asking this question, it means you already know what you want to do. And what's that? Whatever scares you the most." She laughed despite herself. "That's terrible advice. Probably. But you've spent your whole life playing it safe. And where has it gotten you? You're 27 years old, working at a diner, living in that apartment. Thanks for the summary. I'm not judging. I'm saying maybe it's time to try something different." He paused. "Just be careful. And if you need me for anything, I know. I love you, sis. I love you too." She hung up and stared at the ceiling. Something different. Something that scared her. Thursday arrived like a sentence being handed down. Elena went through her shift at the diner in a daze. She poured coffee and took orders and made change, but her mind was elsewhere, running through scenarios, calculating risks, trying to find the version of this that didn't end in disaster. There wasn't one. Every path she could see led to pain. Stay with Dominic, and eventually his world would catch up with her, a threat, an attack, a choice between him and everything else. Leave him, and she'd go back to her life as it was, safe, empty, slowly dying by inches. At 8:45 p.m., she hung up her apron and walked to Meridian Street. He was already there, standing by Rosa's truck, hands in his pockets, watching her approach with an expression she couldn't read. "You came," she said. "I'm always here." She ordered 2 carnitas tacos and joined him at their table. The familiar ritual steadied her somehow, the crunch of the shell, the bright lime, Rosa's voice calling out orders in the background. "You've made a decision," he said. It wasn't a question. "I have, and..." She set down her taco and looked at him. "I want to stay," she said. "I want to see where this goes. But I need you to understand something. Tell me. I'm not doing this because I think it's smart or safe, or because I have some fantasy about changing you. I'm doing it because..." She struggled to find the words. "Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself. Not the version that pays bills and works doubles and never asks for anything. The real version. The one who wants things. What do you want?" "I don't know yet, but I want the chance to find out." He reached across the table and took her hand. His grip was firm, warm, certain. "Then you'll have it," he said. "Whatever you want, whatever you need, I'll give it to you. I don't need you to give me anything. I know. That's why I want to." She smiled, and for a moment, the world felt simple, just 2 people at a taco truck, holding hands. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed, a door closing, the mask snapping back into place. "I have to go, now. There's a situation. I'll explain later." He stood, threw cash on the table, and kissed her, hard and fast, like he was memorizing her. "Stay at my house tonight," he said. "I'll have Victor pick you up. Dominic, please. Just for tonight." The urgency in his voice sent ice down her spine. "What's happening?" "I'll tell you when I know." He cupped her face. "I'll come back. I promise." Then he was gone. Elena sat alone at the table, watching the black SUV disappear into traffic, and felt the first cold wind of what was coming. Victor arrived 20 minutes later, stone-faced and silent. "Ma'am, where is he?" "I can't say can't or won't. Both." He drove her to the brownstone and led her inside. The house felt different at night, larger, emptier, full of shadows that moved when she wasn't looking. "Make yourself comfortable," Victor said. "The boss will be back when he can. And if something goes wrong—" He looked at her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, his expression softened. "Then I'll come get you," he said, "and I'll make sure you're safe." He left her alone. Elena wandered through the house, too anxious to sit. She found the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, stood at the window watching the street. What had she gotten herself into? What was she now? A girlfriend? A possession? A liability? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Don't worry. He handles situations like this all the time. Get some sleep." She stared at the message. Someone in Dominic's organization, watching out for her, trying to be kind. It didn't help. She curled up on the couch and waited. He came back at 3 a.m. She heard the door open, footsteps in the hallway, and then he was there, standing in the living room doorway, looking at her like she was a mirage. "You stayed. You asked me to." He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. He smelled like smoke and sweat and something metallic she didn't want to identify. "What happened?" she asked. "A problem. It's handled. Are you hurt?" "No." She pulled back to look at him. His eyes were tired, his jaw tight, but he was unharmed. Whatever had happened tonight, he'd walked away from it intact. "This is what it's like," he said quietly. "This is what being with me means. Nights like this, calls that pull me away. Things I can't explain. I know. And you still want to stay." She thought about all the reasons she should leave. The danger, the uncertainty, the 100 ways this could destroy her. Then she thought about the way she felt when he looked at her. The way he'd laughed at tacos from a truck. The way he'd said, "I think I'm falling in love with you," and meant it. "Yes," she said. "I still want to stay." He kissed her, then slowly, thoroughly, like they had all the time in the world. They didn't. But for that moment, it felt like they did. The next 2 months were the happiest of Eleanor's life. It wasn't the money, though Dominic made sure she wanted for nothing, or the security, or the way people looked at her differently now, with a mix of fear and respect she hadn't earned but couldn't entirely reject. It was simpler than that. It was waking up next to someone who saw her. Not the waitress, not the good daughter, not the careful woman who had never taken a risk. Just Elena. The real version, the one she'd been hiding for so long she'd forgotten it existed. Dominic gave her that. And in return, she gave him something equally rare, a place to be human. She saw it in the way he unwound at night, shedding the armor of his public self, piece by piece, until he was just a man lying beside her, talking about nothing. She saw it in the way he laughed, still surprised, every time, like he hadn't expected to. She saw it in the way he held her hand sometimes, not possessively, but gently, like she was something precious he wanted to protect. They fell into a rhythm. She worked her shifts at the dine. She'd insisted on keeping the job, needing something that was hers alone, and spent her nights at the brownstone. He disappeared for meetings and calls, and late-night emergencies, and she learned not to ask questions. They had dinner together when they could, watched terrible movies on the couch, made love with an intensity that never seemed to fade. "I didn't know it could be like this," she told him one night. "Like what?" "Easy. Being with someone." He was quiet for a moment. "Then, it's not easy. You just make it feel that way." She should have known it couldn't last. The first crack appeared in March. Elena was leaving the diner after a closing shift when a man stepped out of the shadows, fall thin, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Elena Vargas. She froze. Who's asking? A friend. He stepped closer, and she saw the outline of a gun beneath his jacket. I have a message for your boyfriend. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph of Alina and Dominic at Rose's truck, holding hands across the table. Nice picture. You two make a cute couple. Her blood turned to ice. What do you want? I told you. To deliver a message. He tucked the photo away. Tell Dominic that Marco Santini says hello. Tell him I know about you. Tell him I know about your mother's address, your brother's parole officer, community college you've been looking at. If you touch my family, I won't have to. As long as Dominic does what's smart. He smiled again. Have a good night, Elena. He walked away. Elena stood there, shaking, until she was sure he was gone. Then she pulled out her phone. Dominic's reaction was immediate. Within an hour, her mother had been relocated to a safe house outside the city. Miguel had vanished into protective custody. Elena herself was surrounded by a security team that materialized out of nowhere and refused to let her out of their sight. Who is Marco Santini? She demanded, when Dominic finally arrived at the brownstone. A competitor. What does he want? What they all want. Territory. Power. He paced the living room like a caged animal. He's been circling for months, looking for leverage. Now he has it. Me. Yes. So what do we do? He stopped pacing, looked at her with something she'd never seen before, fear. I handle it, he said. You stay safe, Dominic. This is what I do, Elena. This is what I'm good at. Let me handle it. She wanted to argue. Wanted to demand a role, a plan, something besides sitting on the sidelines while he fought battles she couldn't see. But she also knew that this was the bargain she'd made. His world, his rules. Okay, she said. Handle it. He kissed her forehead. I'll be back soon. He wasn't back soon. Days passed with no word. Victor brought her food, updates that said nothing. The boss is working on it, and polite refusals to answer her questions. She paced the brownstone like a prisoner, staring out windows, jumping at every sound. On the fourth day, she broke. I need to get out of here. Victor's expression didn't change. Not possible. I'm not asking for permission. Ma'am, with respect, this isn't a negotiation. The boss gave orders. The boss isn't here. I am. And I'm losing my mind. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, Victor's jaw softened. There's a courtyard in the back, he said. Private, secure. You can get some air. She wanted to scream. A courtyard wasn't freedom. But it was something. Thank you. She went outside and stood in the cold, March air, watching clouds scud across a grey sky. Her phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number again. It's almost over. He's winning. She stared at the message. Winning what? Winning how? Before she could respond, the door opened behind her. She turned, expecting Victor. It wasn't Victor. The man from outside the diner, Marco Santini's messenger, stepped into the courtyard, gun drawn. Hello again, Elena. She didn't scream. She'd always wondered what she would do in a situation like this. Panic, freeze, fight. But her body made the decision for her. And the decision was stillness. How did you get in here? The boss has a mole. He smiled. Your boyfriend's good at a lot of things. But loyalty isn't catching. People can be bought. What do you want? Same thing I wanted before. Leverage. He gestured with the gun. Let's go. And if I refuse, then I shoot you here and take your body. Same result, more mess. She looked at the gun, at his face, at the door behind him, which might as well have been a mile away. Okay, she said. He led her through a service entrance she hadn't known existed, into a waiting car that peeled away from the curb before she could catch her breath. The driver was a woman, young, stone-faced, dressed in black. "Where are we going? Does it matter?" It didn't. Not really. What mattered was that Dominic didn't know where she was. That the security he'd put in place had failed. That someone he trusted had betrayed him, and now she was paying the price. The city blurred past the windows. Familiar streets gave way to industrial zones, warehouses, the forgotten edges where commerce went to die. Finally, the car stopped. They were at a shipping facility, cranes and containers, and a distant sound of water. The messenger pulled her out of the car and marched her inside a warehouse, where a dozen men waited with weapons drawn. And, at the center of them, Marco Santini. He was older than she expected, 50, maybe 55, with silver hair and the kind of face that had probably been handsome once, but had been warped by years of ruthlessness into something hard and cold. He looked at her like she was a specimen, something to be studied and catalogued. "Elena Vargas. Finally we meet. What do you want?" "I want Dominic Moretti to suffer. And you." He stepped closer. "You're going to help me make that happen." They didn't hurt her. That was the strange part. They tied her to a chair, took her phone, posted guards at every exit, but no one touched her. No one threatened violence. Santini seemed almost courteous, bringing her water, asking if she was comfortable. "You're not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "I dunno. More barbaric." He laughed. "I'm not a barbarian, Elena. I'm a businessman. And business requires a certain civility. Kidnapping is civilized. Kidnapping is leverage. Leverage is currency. Currency is power." He spread his hands. "The world runs on such transactions. I'm sure Dominic would agree. Then why do this? If you're just like him, I'm not like him." The mask slipped, just for a moment, revealing something cold and vicious underneath. "Dominic Moretti took something from me. Something I can never get back. And now I'm going to take something from him. Me. You. His pride. His empire." He smiled. "Preferably all three." Hours passed. Elena lost track of time in the warehouse, with its buzzing fluorescent lights and windowless walls. She tested her bonds, catalogued the guards, tried to think of escape plans that didn't end with her dead. Nothing came. Then, just after midnight, everything changed. The lights went out. Emergency generators kicked on, bathing the warehouse in red. Shouting erupted outside, gunfire, screams, the sounds of chaos. "What's happening?" Elena pulled at her bonds. The guard watching her raised his weapon, aiming at the door. It exploded inward. Dominic came through first, flanked by Victor and a team of men who moved with lethal precision. Gunfire crackled, bodies fell. In 30 seconds, half of Santini's men were down. "Elena, here." "I'm here." Dominic fought his way across the warehouse, shooting 2 men who got in his way without breaking stride. He reached her, cut her bonds, pulled her to her feet. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm later. We need to move." He took her hand and ran. They made it halfway to the exit before Santini stepped out of the shadows. He was holding a gun, aimed at Elena's head. "That's far enough." Everyone stopped. Dominic's men froze, weapons raised. Victor materialized beside them, bloodied but steady. The warehouse fell silent except for the hum of generators and the ragged breathing of the wounded, Marco. Dominic's voice was ice. "Let her go. Let me think about that." Santini pretended to consider, then smiled. "No. She's not part of this. She became part of this the moment you touched her." Santini's grip tightened on the gun. "I told you I'd take something from you. I told you I'd make you suffer. And now, here we are. If you hurt her, what? You'll kill me." Santini laughed. "You're going to kill me anyway. We both know that. The only question is, what happens before?" He pressed the gun against Elena's temple. She didn't move, didn't breathe. She could feel the cold metal, the trembling in Santini's hand, the razor edge of the moment. "Dominic," she said quietly, "don't." His eyes never left Santini. "Just stay calm. This is because of me. No, this is because of him. Because of choices made long before you existed. What did you take from him?" The question surprised everyone, Santini most of all. He stared at her with something like disbelief. "Ask him," Santini spat. Elena looked at Dominic. "What did you take?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, slowly, the weight of it settled on his features. Guilt, grief, a wound that had never healed. His daughter, Dominic said, "There was a conflict years ago. Casualties on both sides. His daughter was collateral damage." Collateral damage, Santini's voice cracked. "She was 17 years old. She was coming home from school, and your men, it wasn't intentional. It doesn't matter." The gun shook. "She's gone. She's gone. And you get to live. You get to build your empire. You get to fall in love, Marco." Elena's voice was calm, steady. "I'm sorry about your daughter." He stared at her. "I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was an accident or a mistake or something worse, but I know what it's like to lose someone. And I know that killing me won't bring her back. You don't know anything. I know that grief makes people do things they can't undo. I know that you've spent years planning this moment, and now that you're here, it doesn't feel like you thought it would." She met his eyes. "Does it?" Something shifted in his expression. The rage was still there, but beneath it doubt, pain, the hollow core of a man who had built his whole life around revenge and found it empty. "She was 17, he whispered. "I know. She wanted to be a teacher. I'm sorry." The gun lowered, inch by inch, until it was pointing at the floor. Dominic didn't hesitate. He closed the distance in 2 steps and disarmed Santini with brutal efficiency. Wrist lock, twist, the gun clattering away. Santini crumpled to his knees, and Dominic stood over him with a weapon pressed to the back of his head. "Give me one reason." Santini didn't answer. He knelt there, broken, waiting for the end. "Dominic." Elena stepped forward. "Don't. After what he did to you, he didn't hurt me. He could have, and he didn't." She touched his arm. "Please." For a long moment, the tableau held Dominic with his finger on the trigger. Santini with his head bowed, Elena with her hand on the arm of the man she loved. Then, slowly, Dominic lowered the weapon. "Get him out of here," he told Victor. "I don't care where. Just away from me." Victor nodded and hauled Santini to his feet. "This isn't over," Santini rasped. "Yes, it is." Dominic's voice was tired. "Go grieve your daughter, Marco. Build a shrine, light a candle, do whatever you need to do. But if you come near Elena again, if you even think about her, I will end you. And it won't be quick." Santini spat blood on the floor and let Victor drag him away. The warehouse fell silent. In the aftermath, Elena sat in Dominic's car while his men cleaned up the mess. She was shaking, delayed reaction, adrenaline crashing, but she forced herself to breathe. He slid into the seat beside her. His hands were bloody. His face was drawn. "Elena, I'm okay. You're not. I will be." He reached for her, then stopped, looking at the blood on his hands, pulling back. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. It is. All of it. My choices, my enemies. I brought this into your life. You didn't bring Santini. You didn't make him do this. I created the conditions. I put a target on you the moment I decided I wanted you." His voice broke. "I should have let you go. That first night, when you kissed me, I should have walked away. But you didn't. No. And I didn't either." She took his bloody hand and held it. "I knew what this was, Dominic. I knew the risks, and I chose to stay. After tonight, I need to go home and take a shower and sleep for about 12 hours. And then I need to think about what comes next. She squeezed his hand. But I'm not leaving. Not unless you want me to. He looked at her with something like wonder. How can you still want this? Because I love you. The words came out before she could stop them. True and terrifying and completely irreversible. He stared at her. Say it again. I love you. He kissed her then, desperate, fierce, tasting of blood and fear and relief. She kissed him back with equal intensity, pouring into it all the terror of the night and the hope that they might survive it. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. I love you too, he said. God help us both. The next few weeks were a careful reconstruction. Elena's mother came home from the safe house. Miguel returned from protective custody. The security around Elena increased, but less visibly. She'd made Dominic promise not to smother her, and he was trying to honor that. They didn't talk about that night in the warehouse. Not directly, but it hung between them like smoke, changing the air. Elena went back to work at the diner. The normalcy helped, serving coffee, wiping counters, the familiar rhythm of shifts that started and ended without anyone trying to kidnap her. She was quieter than before, and Carla noticed. You okay, girl? Fine. You're not fine. You've been not fine for weeks. Carla lowered her voice. Is it him? Is he treating you badly? No. The opposite. Then what? Elena looked out the window at the street she'd walked 1,000 times. The cars, the people, the ordinary commerce of life. I don't know who I am anymore, she said. I used to be someone who played it safe, who didn't take risks. And now you're in love with a man who has people shot. Yes. Carla was quiet for a moment. Then she put a hand on Elena's shoulder. You know what I think? I think you were always more than you let yourself be. You just needed permission to show it. She smiled. Maybe he gave you that. Maybe he did. In late April, Dominic asked her to move in. Not to the brownstone, he said it was compromised, and he'd never feel safe there again, but to a new place, a penthouse downtown, with views of the harbor and security that was invisible but everywhere. You don't have to decide now, he said. Take your time. I don't need time. Elena, I've spent my whole life needing time. Weighing options, calculating risks, waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. She took his hands. I want to live with you. I want to wake up next to you every day and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to build something with you, whatever that looks like. Whatever it looks like, he repeated. Yes. He pulled her close. Then let's build it. 1 year later. Elena stood at the window of the penthouse, watching the sunrise paint the harbor in shades of gold and rose. Behind her, she could hear Dominic on the phone, a call from Victor. Something about a shipment, but she'd learned not to listen. What she didn't know couldn't hurt her. Couldn't hurt her much anyway. The past year had been a transformation so complete, she barely recognized her old self. She'd left the dine, Carla had cried, and Elena had promised to visit and enrolled full-time in the accounting program she'd been putting off for years. She'd moved into the penthouse with Dominic, learnt to navigate the strange rhythms of his world, found her footing in a life that was bigger and more dangerous than anything she'd imagined, and she'd become someone new, not a different person. She was still Elena Vargas from South Boston, still the woman who sent money home and worried about her family and ate street tacos on Thursday nights. But something had shifted. The fear that had governed her life for so long had loosened its grip. She took risks now, said what she thought, demanded things she wanted instead of waiting for them to be offered. Dominic had given her that, or maybe she'd always had it and just needed the right conditions to grow. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Good morning." "Morning." She leaned into him. "Everything okay? Under control?" "That's not what I asked." He kissed her neck. "Everything's okay." She turned in his arms to face him. A year together, and she still felt it. That pull, that recognition, the sense that he was seeing parts of her no one else could. "I have something to tell you," she said. "Should I be worried?" "Maybe." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm pregnant." The silence stretched between them. She watched his face cycle through emotions, shock, fear, wonder, more fear, till finally settling on something that looked almost like awe. "You're sure?" "I took 3 tests and saw a doctor." "When?" "Yesterday. I wanted to be certain before I told you." He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair, turned away, turned back. "A baby?" "Yes. Our baby. That's how it works." He wasn't laughing, wasn't even smiling. He looked like a man who'd just been told the world was ending, and he had 5 minutes to save it. "Dominic, say something." "I don't know what to say. How about congratulations? Or, I'm happy. Or literally anything other than looking like you've seen a ghost. I can't be a father." The words hit her like a slap. "What?" "Elena." He grabbed her hands, his grip too tight. "Look at me. Look at what I do, who I am. What kind of father could I possibly be? You could be a good one. I run a criminal organization. I have people killed. He broke off, jaw clenched. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I. That's kind of the point." She pulled her hands free. "I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to try, and if I fail, then you fail. And we figure it out, together." He looked at her for a long moment. The fear was still there. She could see it lurking beneath the surface, but something else was rising to meet it. Something that looked like hope. "I don't deserve this," he said quietly. "Maybe not, but you have it anyway." He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "I love you," he said into her hair. "I love you, and I'm terrified. I know. I'm going to mess this up. Probably. But I'm going to try." He pulled back to look at her. "I'm going to try to be someone our child can be proud of. That's all I'm asking." The pregnancy changed things. Not immediately, and not obviously. Dominic still ran his empire, still disappeared for meetings and calls, still came home with blood on his hands sometimes. But beneath the surface something was shifting. He started delegating more. Trusting Victor with operations he used to oversee personally. Spending more time at the penthouse, more time with Elena, building the foundation of a life that didn't revolve entirely around crime. "I'm not getting out," he told her one night. "That's not possible. But I can ... step back. Let other people handle the day-to-day." "Why now?" "Because I want to be there. For you, for the baby. I don't want to miss it." She took his hand and placed it on her stomach, where a tiny life was growing. "You won't miss it." In her 7th month, Elena had lunch with her mother. They sat in a cafe near the old neighborhood neutral territory, away from the penthouse and all its implications. Her mother stirred her tea and studied Elena with the sharp eyes that had never missed anything. "You look good, Mia." "I feel good. And him? He's treating you well." "He's treating me very well. But he's not a good man." Elena set down her fork. "No, he's not. And you're having his baby." "Yes." Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then, "Your father wasn't a good man either." Elena stared at her. In 27 years her mother had never talked about her father, not once, not ever. "What?" "Oh, not like him. Your father wasn't ... that. But he had his flaws. His temper, his pride. He made mistakes." She sipped her tea. "But he loved us. He loved you and Miguel more than anything in the world. And sometimes That's enough, is it? I think so. Her mother reached across the table and squeezed Elena's hand. I think if someone loves you, really loves you, the way he looks at you, then you can forgive a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. I'm scared, Mammy. Of course you are. You're having a baby with a complicated man in a complicated world. Her mother smiled. But you're strong, Mia. Stronger than you know. And whatever happens, you'll be there. I'll be there. The baby came in November. A girl, 7 pounds, dark hair, her father's eyes. They named her Isabel, after Dominic's grandmother, the one person from his child he still spoke of with tenderness. Elena held her daughter in the hospital bed, marveling at the smallness of her, the perfection. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a tiny mouth already searching. Dominic sat beside them, looking shell-shocked. She's so small. They usually are. How do we, what if I... He couldn't finish the sentence. Hey. Elena caught his eye. You're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. How do you know? Because I know you. And because, she looked down at Isabel, at the life they'd created together. Because this is what we've been building toward. All of it. The risks, and the fear, and the choices we made. It was all leading here. He leaned in and kissed her, then kissed their daughter's forehead. I'll protect you, he murmured. Both of you. With everything I have, I know. The first year of Isabel's life was the hardest thing Elena had ever done. Not because of the sleepless nights, or the constant worry, or the way her body had changed, and was still changing. Those things were hard, but they were manageable. What was hard was the fear, the relentless, crushing fear that something would happen, that Dominic's world would reach in and destroy what they'd built. It didn't. There were close calls. A rival organization made threats. Dominic handled them. A federal investigation circled close. His lawyers made it disappear. The bubble they'd built held, and Isabel grew inside it, laughing, crawling, taking her first steps, while her parents watched with matching expressions of terror and joy. She looks like you, Dominic said, one night, watching Isabel sleep. She has your eyes, but your stubbornness. That's not stubbornness. That's determination. He laughed. Same thing. Elena finished her accounting degree when Isabel was 2. She graduated with honors, and Dominic threw her apart as small, just family and close friends, the people who actually knew her. Her mother cried. Miguel gave a toast that made everyone laugh. Carla came from the diner and hugged her for about 5 minutes straight. I'm so proud of you, girl. Thank you. What are you going to do now? Elena looked around the room, her daughter playing with the wrapping paper, at Dominic watching them both with an expression of such love it made her chest ache. I don't know yet, she said. But I'm not scared to find out. Years passed. Isabel grew. Elena built a career, using her degree to manage the legitimate side of Dominic's businesses, the real estate, the construction, the restaurants. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when she was a waitress at Rosario's, but it was hers, and it was good, not perfect. There were still nights when Dominic came home with shadows in his eyes, still moments when the weight of what he did pressed down on both of them. But they'd learned to carry it together, to make space for the darkness without letting it consume them. Do you ever regret it? He asked her one night when Isabel was 5 and sleeping down the hall. Regret what? This. Me. The life we've built. She considered the question, really considered it. I regret the fear, she said finally. I regret the nights I worried something would happen to you, or to Isabel. I regret the parts of your work I can't know about and the distance that creates, but I don't regret us. I don't regret that night at the diner, or the tacos, or the way you looked at me when I said that stupid thing about not having sex. She smiled. I don't regret loving you, even knowing what you know now. Even knowing. He pulled her close. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She kissed him. But you have me anyway. When Isabel was 7, she asked where her father went at night. Elena and Dominic had prepared for this question, discussed it, debated it, rehearsed answers that were truthful but not too truthful. But when the moment came, it was Dominic who answered. I run a business, he said. A lot of businesses, actually. Some of them need attention at night. What kind of businesses? Buildings, restaurants, things that people need. Isabel considered this. Like a superhero. Dominic glanced at Elena. She nodded. Something like that, he said. Time kept moving. Isabel turned 10, then 12, then 15. She was smart, her mother's brains, her father's intensity, and curious about everything. She asked questions Elena sometimes couldn't answer, pushed boundaries Dominic sometimes couldn't hold. She's going to find out, Elena said one night. Eventually. She's going to learn what you really do. I know. And when she does, then we tell her the truth. All of it. He met her eyes. And we hope she can forgive us. Isabel found out when she was 17. Not through them, through a classmate whose father was a cop, who'd heard things and repeated them. She came home that night with fury in her eyes and confronted them both. Is it true? Are you? She couldn't even say the word. Dominic didn't flinch. Yes. How could you? All this time, we wanted to protect you. Protect me? She was crying now. You're a criminal. You hurt people. And Mum, she turned to Elena, you knew. You've always known. Yes. Then how could you stay with him? How could you have me? It was the question Elena had asked herself 100 times, 1,000, and she'd found her answer. Because I love him, she said simply. Because the world isn't black and white, and people aren't either. Your father has done things I can't defend, but he's also the man who stayed up with you when you were sick, who taught you to ride a bike, who cried when you took your first steps. He's complicated. We all are. That's not good enough. Maybe not. But it's the truth. Isabel left. Slammed her door, refused to come out. The silence in the penthouse was deafening. She come around, Elena said. Dominic didn't answer. He just stood at the window, watching the city lights, looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. It took time. Months of tension, of Isabel barely speaking to them, of a fracture that threatened to become permanent. But slowly, things healed. Isabel started asking questions, real questions, not accusations. She wanted to understand her father's world, the choices he'd made, the person he was beneath the reputation. And Dominic told her. All of it. The good and the bad and the unforgivable. I'm not proud of everything I've done, he said, but I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of this family. Whatever else I am, I'm your father, and I love you. Isabel hugged him. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. When Elena turned 45, they had a party. A big one this time, not just family, but friends and colleagues, and people from every corner of their lives. The penthouse was full of laughter and music, and the kind of joy that came from surviving things together. Dominic found her on the balcony, looking out at the city. You're okay? Perfect. No regrets? She smiled. They'd been having this conversation for 20 years, and her answer was always the same. No regrets. He took her hand. I was thinking, he said, about stepping back. Really stepping back. Letting Victor take over most of it. You've been saying that for years. I mean at this time. He squeezed her hand. I want to travel. See the world with you. Be boring for a while. You could never be boring. I could try. She looked at him, older now, grey at the temples, lines around his eyes. Still the most dangerous man she'd ever met. Still the man she loved. Okay, she said, okay. Let's be boring together. They traveled. Europe, South America, places they'd always wanted to see. They held hands in Paris and argued about directions in Rome and ate street tacos in Mexico City that were almost as good as Rosa's. They were happy. And one night, in a small hotel in Lisbon, Elena awoke to find Dominic watching her. What? Nothing. Just looking. At what? At you. He traced her cheek with his finger. At the woman who walked into my life and changed everything. I didn't change anything. I spilled coffee on you and made an inappropriate comment. Exactly. He smiled. The bravest thing anyone's ever done. She laughed. I love you, she said. You know that. I know. And whatever happens, I know that too. She kissed him, soft and slow, and felt the weight of all their years together, the fear and the joy, the danger and the safety, the impossible, improbable life they'd built from a single reckless moment. I haven't had sex in 6 months, she murmured against his lips. He laughed. Let's fix that.